The alarm didn't just ring. It screamed. A piercing, metallic howl tore through the command deck of the USS Aegis, snapping every crew member out of routine silence like glass shattering in a vacuum. Commander Arya Solin flinched, her hand tightening around the edge of her console as the entire ship vibrated beneath her boots. "Report!" she barked, already on her feet. Lieutenant Cade's fingers flew across his controls, faster than she had ever seen. The glow from his screen painted his face a sickly blue. I don't know what I'm looking at," he said, voice tight. "There's a distortion ahead, bearing 087. Define distortion." Cade swallowed. Space isn't behaving. A low ripple passed through the hull, subtle, but wrong, like something brushing against reality itself. Arya turned toward the main viewport. On screen, the stars vanished. Not dimmed, not blocked, gone, in their place. Something impossible unfolded. At first, it looked like a fracture, thin, jagged lines stretching across the darkness. But then the cracks began to move, twisting, expanding, tearing wider like invisible hands were pulling the universe apart. Color bled into the void. Not natural color. Not anything the human I was meant to process. Shifting layers of deep violet and molten gold spiraled outward, folding in on themselves, forming a vortex that pulsed like a living thing. The bridge fell silent. Even the alarm seemed distant now. "How big is it?" Arya asked, her voice quieter this time. Cade didn't answer immediately. His console flickered violently before stabilizing. "It's still expanding," he whispered. "Current diameter, 12 kilometers. No, wait, 30. It's growing exponentially. Energy readings? Off the charts. I'm getting values that don't make sense. It's like the laws of physics just stopped applying." A sharp crack echoed through the deck, not from the ship. From outside, Arya's breath caught. The vortex convulsed. For a fraction of a second, everything froze. The light, the motion, even the hum of the ship itself seemed to hesitate. And then the tear widened. Something was coming through. Cade leaned closer to his screen, eyes wide. "Commander," he said slowly, dread creeping into his voice. "That distortion, it's not random." Arya didn't look away from the impossible storm unraveling before them. "Then what is it?" Cade's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's opening." The vortex surged brighter, blinding, violent, alive, and deep within its swirling core, a shadow moved. The shadow inside the vortex grew, not fading, not shifting, growing. Commander Arya Solin felt it before she fully saw it. A presence, vast and unnatural, pushing its way through the tear like something forcing itself into a world it didn't belong in. "Enhance visual," she ordered. The system hesitated, just for a fraction of a second before the image sharpened. And then the bridge collectively forgot how to breathe. It wasn't debris. It wasn't energy. It was a ship. A massive silhouette began to emerge from the swirling distortion, its shape slowly resolving to the violent light. First came the bow, angular, armored, unmistakably engineered. Then the body followed, long, endless, towering. The vessel pushed forward with impossible momentum, displacing the vortex around it as if the anomaly itself were making way. "Oh my God!" someone whispered. Arya didn't respond. Her mind was racing, trying to process scale alone. Range. Cade's hands trembled slightly as he recalibrated, estimating length over 8 kilometers. A stunned silence followed. That was impossible. No human ship had ever come close to that size. Not even the largest colony carriers or deep space stations. Configuration? Arya pressed. Cade zoomed in further, isolating sections of the hull. "That's the thing," he said slowly. "It looks..." He hesitated. "Say it." "Human?" The word landed like a shockwave. Arya's eyes narrowed. "That's not possible." "I know," Cade said quickly. "But the structural layout, the plating segmentation, even the engine housing, it matches early generation Earthfleet designs. Old ones, pre-expansion era." Arya stepped closer to the screen, studying the details. He was right. The design language was familiar, primitive by modern standards, but unmistakable, except it had been expanded, grown. The hull wasn't just larger, It was layered with structures that didn't belong. Vast protrusions, lattice-like extensions, and smooth, flowing surfaces that seemed almost organic, like the ship had evolved. Run identification. Arya said, her voice steady but tight. The ship's computer began processing. Seconds stretched. The vessel on screen fully cleared the vortex now, drifting into open space. Behind it, the anomaly began to collapse, the swirling colors folding inward like a wound sealing shut. "Commander," Cade said, barely audible, "you need to see this." Arya turned. On his console, the identification results had locked in. For a moment, she didn't understand what she was reading. Then her blood ran cold. Ship designation confirmed. Cade read slowly, as if saying it too fast might break reality. UES Odyssey colony vessel, launched from Earth orbit, August 3rd, 2189. Arya's stomach dropped. "No," she said immediately. "That's wrong." Cade shook his head, eyes glued to the data. "It's not wrong. The registry matches perfectly. Hull signature, core framework, it's all there." Arya stepped closer. Her voice lowered. "That ship was declared lost." Cade nodded. 200 years ago. The words echoed across the bridge. 2 centuries. Gone without a trace. No debris. No signal. No survivors. Memorials had been built. Histories written. Names carved into stone across 3 worlds. And now, it was here, alive, drifting silently just beyond their position. "Life signs," Arya said quickly. Cade scanned again, adjusting parameters. His expression changed, from fear to something worse. "Commander," he whispered. "How many?" Cade looked up slowly. "All of them." A chill rippled through the bridge. "All of them," Arya repeated. "Passengers, crew. I'm reading over 60,000 human biosignatures." That wasn't possible. Even if the ship had survived, even if... "No one survives 2 centuries in deep space," Arya said. Cade nodded faintly. "I know." Silence fell again. Heavy, suffocating. Then, "Commander!" The comms officer called out suddenly. "We're picking up a transmission." Every head snapped toward her. "Source." "The ship," she said. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies. Audio. Audio only." Arya didn't hesitate. "Play it." Static flooded the bridge speakers. A harsh, broken sound, like something struggling to push through time itself. Then, a voice. Human. Distorted, stretched, but unmistakably real. "This is the UES Odyssey." The transmission crackled violently. "We have returned." A pause. Then the same words again. Identical. Looping. Cold. Unchanging. "We have returned. We have returned. We have returned." The message repeated, over and over, like a ghost echoing through space. No variation. No emotion. Just a statement. Arya felt something twist in her chest. "Try to respond," she ordered. "Already attempting," the comms officer replied. "No acknowledgement. It's not receiving, just transmitting." Arya turned back to the viewport. The massive ship hung there, silent, watching, waiting. And for the first time since the alarm had sounded, Arya felt it. Not just fear, not just confusion. Something deeper, something instinctive, something every human was born with. A quiet, unshakable certainty. This wasn't a rescue. Cade spoke again, barely above a whisper. "Commander." Arya didn't look at him. "What came back?" She stared at the drifting giant, her reflection faint against the glass. Might not be what left. The message didn't stop. "We have returned. We have returned. We have returned." It echoed to the bridge in perfect intervals, each repetition identical to the last. No fluctuation, no distortion beyond the original damage. No humanity. Commander Arya Solon felt her jaw tighten. "Kill the audio," she said. The sound cut instantly, but somehow the silence felt worse. "Keep scanning," she continued. "Full spectrum. I want everything. Internal layout, thermal readings, movement patterns." "Aye." Lieutenant Cade adjusted his console, pulling in deeper telemetry. New data streams flooded across his screen. then glitched. Hard. Lines of information stuttered, overlapped, then rewrote themselves. Commander, something's interfering with our sensors. From the ship? Cade hesitated. I don't think so. Arya frowned. Then what? He slowly turned his display toward her. It's like the readings themselves don't want to stay consistent. On screen, the Odyssey's internal structure flickered. Corridors appeared, then shifted. Decks overlapped in impossible ways. Sections existing where no physical space should allow them. Rooms expanded, collapsed, then reformed in entirely different configurations. Arya narrowed her eyes. That's not a sensor error. No, Cade said quietly. It's not. Thermal readings? She asked. Normal, Cade replied. Too normal. Every section is holding perfect temperature equilibrium. No fluctuations, no variation. Not even between engineering and habitation zones. That's impossible. I know. Movement. Cade zoomed in. Dots appeared across a schematic. Life signs. Thousands of them. Moving. But not randomly. Not naturally. Arya leaned closer. They were synchronized. Entire groups shifting at once. Stopping at the same time. Turning in perfect unison like something was directing them. Are they marching? Someone whispered. No. Arya said slowly. Her voice dropped. They're aligning. A sudden spike lit up Cade's console. Commander, gravitational fluctuations detected. From the Odyssey? Yes, but it's not propulsion. It's like the ship itself is generating localized gravity waves. That's not possible with any known drive system. I'm aware. The hull of the Odyssey shimmered. At first, it looked like a trick of light, reflections from distant stars bending oddly across its surface. But then it happened again. And again. The metal moved. Subtle. Almost like breathing. Arya's stomach turned. Zoom the exterior hull. Cade complied. The image magnified, revealing smooth plating that wasn't quite solid. Patterns rippled beneath the surface. Faint currents of light moving through the structure like veins. Like circulation. That's not damage, Cade whispered. Arya didn't respond. She didn't need to. They were all thinking the same thing. Commander, the comms officer said, voice tense. We're receiving another signal. Arya turned sharply. From the Odyssey? No. A pause. From inside it. The bridge went still. Clarify. It's not a broadcast, she said. It's fragmented, like multiple signals trying to push through at once. Put it through? The speakers crackled again, but this time it wasn't a single voice. It was many, layered, broken, overlapping. Hello, can anyone? Not right. Something's. Please respond. This isn't. We can't stop it. The audio distorted violently. Screams flickered beneath the static. Cut short, repeated, stretched unnaturally. Then, silence. Arya felt her pulse hammering in her ears. That wasn't automated, she said. No, the comms officer whispered. Those were real voices. Try to isolate one channel. Arya ordered. I'm trying, but they're all merging together. It's like they're being compressed. By what? No one answered. Cade suddenly stiffened. Commander, I just lost something. What? The life signs. Arya snapped her head toward him. Lost. They're still there, but... He swallowed. They're not reading as individual humans anymore. Then what are they reading as? Cade didn't speak for a moment. When he did, his voice was barely audible. One signal. The words hit harder than any alarm. One. Arya repeated. 60,000 life signs merge into a single unified reading. That's not possible. I know, Cade said again, but that's what the system is showing. The Odyssey shifted, not in position, not in velocity, but in presence. The massive ship seemed to notice them. A faint glow spread across its surface, soft at first, then intensifying. Lines of light trace along its hull in complex patterns, converging toward the forward section. Toward them. Commander, Cade said, voice tight. Energy spike detected. Magnitude. Climbing fast. I can't even measure the upper limit. Shields, already raising. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as power diverted to defensive systems. A low hum filled the air. Arya stood frozen, eyes locked on the massive vessel ahead. "What is it doing?" someone asked. No one had an answer. The glow intensified, brighter, sharper, focused. Then it stopped. Everything went still, dead still. No movement, no fluctuation, no sound. And then a single transmission came through. Clear, perfect, undistorted. Commander Arya Solon. Every person on the bridge froze. Arya's breath caught. "That's," the comms officer whispered. "That's not possible. We never transmitted your identity." The voice continued. Calm, measured, not human, but not entirely alien either. "We see you." Arya stepped forward slowly. "Identify yourself," she said. A pause. Then, "We are the Odyssey." A chill ran down her spine. "That's not an answer," she said firmly. "Who is in command of that vessel?" Another pause. Longer this time. Heavier. And then the reply came. "No one." The lights across the Odyssey's hull flared. Blinding. Alive. Because the voice deepened. Shifted. Multiplied just slightly, like many speaking as one. "We all are." Silence slammed back into the bridge. No alarms. No movement. No sound. Just one horrifying realization settling into every mind at once. Cade whispered first. "They didn't survive." Arya didn't take her eyes off the glowing giant. They became something else. And the Odyssey began to move. The Odyssey moved without engines. No thrusters ignited. No energy trails formed. Yet the 8-kilometer mass began drifting forward. Slow, deliberate, inevitable. Like gravity had chosen a direction. "Distance closing," Cade reported, voice tight. "It's approaching at 2 meters per second. No, accelerating." "Helm, pull us back," Arya ordered. "Aye." The Aegis thrummed as its engines fired, pushing the ship into reverse. Stars stretched slightly as velocity increased. But on the main viewport, the Odyssey didn't get smaller. It got closer. "That's not possible," Cade said. "We're increasing distance. Why does it still look like it's—" He stopped, because the answer was worse than confusion. "It's not moving through space," he whispered. Arya's eyes narrowed. "It's moving space around itself." A ripple expanded outward from the Odyssey, invisible but undeniable. Stars bent, light warped. The void itself curved like fabric being pulled inward, and the Aegis was being dragged with it. "Counter thrusts." Arya snapped. "We're at maximum output." The deck vibrated harder now, a deep mechanical strain echoing through the hull. Still, they were being pulled closer. Before Arya could issue another command, a sharp chime cut through the tension. "Incoming transmission." "Commander," the comms officer said quickly. "Priority signal from Earth Command." "Patch it through." A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the bridge. Admiral Rice appeared, stern, composed, but with something unusual in his expression. "Concern." "Commander Solon," he said immediately, "we're receiving your telemetry. Confirm, are those readings accurate?" Arya didn't hesitate. "They are, sir." "Unknown vessel identified as UES Odyssey. Lost 2 centuries ago. It has returned." Rice's jaw tightened. "And the anomaly?" "Collapsed after arrival. The ship generated it." A pause. Then, "Understood," the Admiral said. "You are to maintain distance and avoid engagement at all costs. Reinforcements are en route." Arya glanced at the viewport. "That may not be possible, sir." As if on cue, another alert blared. "Commander!" Cade shouted. Multiple FDL signatures detected. Arya turned sharply. "Where?" "Everywhere." Space fractured again. But this time, it wasn't chaotic. It was precise. Controlled. Dozens of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, surrounding the region in a tightening sphere. Sleek. Massive. Alien. The bridge lights dimmed as their sensors were overwhelmed. "Identifying," Cade said rapidly. "Signatures match." He didn't need to finish. Arya already knew. The Galactic Council. Silence fell like a weight. The fleet was enormous. Warships of different designs hovered in coordinated formation, each representing a different species, a different civilization. At the center of it all, 3 colossal vessels stood apart, larger, heavier, radiating power. The orbiters, Cade whispered. Arya's stomach dropped. Everyone knew the stories. Ancient enforcers of the Council, judges of technological violations. And they didn't negotiate. A transmission came through immediately. No delay, no hesitation. Authority made manifest. Unidentified human vessel. A deep, grinding voice echoed across the bridge, translated to universal system. Power down your systems and prepare for inspection. The hologram formed. A towering crystalline figure appeared, its body refracting light in sharp, shifting patterns. Its presence alone felt heavy, ancient. I am Arbiter Kale of the Orbital Enforcement Division. It continued. You are in possession of prohibited technology. You will comply immediately. Arya stepped forward. This is Commander Arya Solon of the USS Aegis. That vessel is a human colony ship we are currently assessing. You are not authorized to assess, Kale interrupted. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop. You are authorized to obey. Arya's jaw tightened. Behind her, Cade whispered urgently, Commander, they're locking weapons. Across the viewport, dozens of alien warships shifted formation. Weapons arrays unfolded. Energy signatures surged. All of them pointed at the Odyssey. And at them, Arya forced herself to stay calm. That ship has not fired, she said. It has not shown hostile intent. It has violated Council law simply by existing in its current state. Kale replied coldly. Its technology exceeds permitted limits for a Tier 1 species. It represents a destabilizing threat. The word hung in the air. Threat. Arya glanced at the Odyssey. Still glowing. Still watching. You don't understand what you're dealing with, she said carefully. Kale's crystalline form flickered slightly. On the contrary, it said, we understand perfectly. A pause. Then, we have seen this before. That caught her off guard. What do you mean? Kale's voice lowered. Ancient technologies. Forbidden systems. Civilizations that reach beyond their limits. A faint pulse of light rippled through its body. They all ended the same way. Destroyed. The word didn't need to be spoken. Stand down, Kale continued. We will neutralize the vessel and secure any surviving biological entities. Arya's heart pounded. Neutralize. That didn't sound like rescue. Behind her, Commander, Cade shouted. The Odyssey flared, brighter than before. Energy surged across its hull in cascading waves, like a living storm. Power spike off the scale. Cade said, It's reacting. The Council fleet responded instantly. Weapons charged. Target locks engaged. Final warning, Kale said. Surrender control of the situation or we will take it. Arya stood frozen between 2 impossible forces. On one side, the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. On the other, something that had once been human and now wasn't. The Odyssey spoke again, not through comms, not through sound, directly into every system, every screen, every mind. We remember them. The voice was everywhere, layered, endless. The ones who came before. Kale's hologram flickered violently. What are you doing? It demanded. The lights on the Odyssey intensified. The space around it began to bend again. They feared what they could not control. The Council fleet shifted, weapons primed, energy building. Arya felt it, that same instinct from before, that same certainty. This was about to escalate. Fast. We offer them understanding. The voice deepened, darkened. They chose fear. A pulse began to form at the center of the Odyssey. Small, but growing. Cade's voice shook. Commander. Arya didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. Whatever happens next. The energy surged, blinding, unstoppable. We are no longer in control. And across the void, the entire Council fleet opened fire. The first shots never landed. They couldn't. A wave erupted from the Odyssey. Not an explosion. Not a blast. Something smoother. A silent expansion of force that rolled outward like an invisible tide. Every beam of energy, every projectile, every charged weapon stopped. Just stopped. Mid-space. Frozen like insects trapped in amber. The entire battlefield locked in place. For one impossible second, nothing moved. Then, everything reversed. The weapon's fire folded backward, collapsing into itself before vanishing completely, as if it had never existed. Across the bridge of the Aegis, no one spoke. No one could. "Commander," Cade whispered, "that's not defense." Aria's voice was barely there. "That's control." The Council fleet reacted instantly. New weapons charged, stronger, brighter, more aggressive. But this time, they didn't fire, because something else had appeared. Between the fleets, a tier, smaller than before, cleaner, precise. It opened silently, and from it, a single craft emerged. Sleek, dark, no visible engines, no weapons. It drifted forward slowly, deliberately. "New contact," Cade said. "Origin Odyssey." The craft stopped halfway between the Odyssey and the Council fleet, suspended, waiting. A transmission came through. Clear, focused. "Commander Arya Solon." Arya stiffened. That voice again. Permission to approach. The request sent a ripple through the bridge. "Commander, that could be a trap," someone warned. "It already is," Arya replied quietly. She stepped forward, her decision already made. "Permission granted," she said. The small craft moved. Not fast, not aggressive, just certain. It approached the Aegis. Docking clamps engaged automatically. Systems flickered as something interfaced with them. Not hacking, not forcing, simply connecting. "Docking complete," Cade said. "We didn't authorize that." Arya didn't respond. She was already moving. "Security team with me." The corridors felt tighter than usual. Heavier, like the ship itself knew something was about to change. They reached the docking bay. Weapons ready, but lowered, not out of trust, out of uncertainty. The airlock hissed. Steam spilled outward, curling across the floor like something alive. Then, footsteps. Slow, measured, a figure emerged. Human, tall, calm, unarmed. He wore a uniform Arya recognized instantly. Old Earth fleet, pre-expansion era. Impossible. He stepped forward, hands visible, expression steady. His eyes met hers. And for a moment, everything else faded. "Permission to come aboard, Commander," he said. His voice was normal, warm, human. Arya didn't lower her weapon. "Identify yourself." The man smiled slightly, not threatening, not friendly, just knowing. "Commander Elias Varen," he said. "UES Odyssey." The name hit like a shockwave. Arya's mind raced. That name was in the archives, in history logs, in memorial records. Dead for 2 centuries. "That's not possible," she said. Varen tilted his head slightly. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." Silence stretched between them. Arya stepped closer, studying him, searching for something, anything. That wasn't real, but he looked perfect, too perfect. "How old are you?" she asked. Varen's smile didn't fade. 37. A chill ran through her. "That ship disappeared 200 years ago." "Yes." "You should be dead." "Yes." The calmness in his voice made it worse. Arya's grip tightened on her weapon, then explained. Varen glanced briefly toward the viewport, toward the distant glow of the Odyssey, then back at her. "We didn't just survive," he said. A pause. "We changed." Behind him, more figures emerged from the shuttle. All human, all wearing the same old uniforms. All perfect, no signs of age, no variation in posture, no hesitation in movement. They moved like a single system, not separate individuals. Arya noticed it immediately. Their eyes, each one carried the same faint glow. Subtle, almost invisible, but there, watching, understanding. "You're not the same," she said. Varen nodded. "No, Another pause. But we are still human. Cade's voice crackled through her calm. Commander, I'm reading something from them. What? A beat. They're not broadcasting signals. Then what are you detecting? Silence. Then they're connected. Aria's eyes flicked back to Varen. How many of you are there? She asked. Varen's answer came without hesitation. All of us. The words landed heavier than expected. Arya stepped even closer now, close enough to see the faint patterns beneath his skin. Light, moving, flowing. What happened to you? She asked. For the first time, Varen's expression shifted. Not fear, not anger, something deeper. Commander Solon, he said quietly, you're asking the wrong question. A pause. Then, what happened to us? His eyes seemed to glow brighter. Is about to happen to everyone. Behind him, the crew stood perfectly still, waiting, watching, and somewhere far beyond the hull, the Odyssey pulsed, alive. The quarantine chamber was sealed, transparent walls, reinforced field, full-spectrum scanners running at maximum sensitivity. And still, Commander Arya Solon felt like none of it mattered. Elias Varen sat calmly on the other side of the barrier, hands resting lightly on the table, posture relaxed, like this wasn't the most impossible moment in human history. Behind Arya, Cade and two science officers monitored every reading they could extract. Heart rate, neural activity, cellular structure, none of it made sense. Your biology, one of the scientists whispered. It's stable, but it's not baseline human anymore. Varen smiled faintly. That's correct. Arya stepped forward. No more fragments, she said. No more half-answers. Her voice hardened. I want the truth. Varen met her gaze, and for the first time, there was weight behind his expression. You won't like it, he said. Arya didn't blink. Try me. Silence stretched. Then Varen leaned back slightly. When we entered the anomaly, he began, we believed it was a standard wormhole, a shortcut, a mistake. A faint, almost nostalgic look crossed his face. It wasn't. The room seemed to grow quieter. It didn't collapse behind us, he continued. It expanded. Arya frowned. Expanded where? Varen's answer came softly. Everywhere else. The lights flickered slightly. Not from the ship. From something deeper. We didn't travel across space, he said. A pause. We left it. Cade shifted behind the glass. That's not physically possible. Varen glanced at him. You're still thinking in physical terms. He tapped the table once. Soft, measured. There are layers to reality your science hasn't reached yet. Structures beneath space-time. Arya crossed her arms. And you're saying you went there? Varen nodded. We were taken there. A small device unfolded from his wrist. Fluid, seamless. Light formed above it. A hologram. The chamber filled with an image. A structure. Massive. Endless. Impossible. It floated in a void that wasn't empty. Threads of light stretched in all directions, connecting, pulsing, shifting like a living network. The station dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. No clear edges. No fixed shape. It changed as they watched it. What is that? Arya whispered. Varen's voice lowered. A gateway. A pause. A test. The image shifted. Now, the Odyssey itself, pulled toward the structure. Captured. Held. We couldn't escape, Varen continued. It locked us in place. Shut down our systems. We thought it was the end. The hologram flickered, then changed. Interior views. Corridors of light. Rooms that folded in on themselves. Spaces that existed in more than 3 dimensions. And then, Varen said quietly, it began. Aria's pulse quickened. What began? Varen looked at her. The evaluation. The word hung in the air. Evaluation of what? A beat. Us. The hologram shifted again. Scenes unfolded rapidly. Crew members running. Systems failing. Entire sections of the ship isolating. People trapped. Separated. Forced into impossible situations. It tested everything, Varen said. Logic. emotion, morality, individual choices, collective decisions, a new image, a group arguing, desperate, panicked. We were given options, he continued. Always options. The scene changed. One person sacrificing themselves to save others, another refusing, another hesitating. Power or unity, survival or compassion, control or trust. Arya felt a chill spread through her. It forced you to choose, she said. Yes. And if you chose wrong? Varen didn't answer immediately. The hologram answered for him. A section of the ship collapsed inward. Screams cut short. Systems shutting down. They were removed, Varen said quietly. Silence. How many? Arya asked. A long pause. Too many. The room felt heavier. But you survived, Arya said. Varen shook his head slightly. No. Another pause. We adapted. The hologram shifted again. Now, something else. Light, flowing into the crew. Through them, around them. They offered integration, Varen said. A way to understand the system. To become part of it. Cade leaned forward. You mean augmentation? Varen looked at him. No. A pause. Symbiosis. The image intensified. Crew members standing still as light moved through their bodies. Not harming. Changing. We didn't lose ourselves, Varen continued. We expanded. Arya's eyes narrowed. That's a convenient way to describe it. Varen didn't react. You think we were taken, he said. Arya didn't deny it. You think we were changed into something else. Another pause. You're wrong. The lights in the chamber dimmed slightly. We were shown what we could be. The hologram shifted one final time. Now, the station, fully active, alive. It wasn't abandoned, Varen said. It was waiting. Arya's voice dropped. For who? Varen met her gaze. For someone who would pass. Silence filled the room. Pass what? Cade asked. Varen's answer came without hesitation. The threshold. Arya felt something cold settle in her chest. And you think you passed? For the first time, Varen's expression showed certainty. I know we did. A pause, because it chose us back. The meaning hit hard. Arya stepped closer to the barrier. And now, she asked. Varen stood slowly. Now. The faint light beneath his skin pulsed. We're no longer limited. He placed a hand gently against the transparent barrier. And neither are you. Arya didn't move. Don't, she said. But it was too late. The barrier flickered. Not breaking. Not failing. Responding. Like it recognized him. Or something inside him. Varen's voice softened. The galaxy, you know. A pause. Is about to change. Outside, the Odyssey pulsed again. Stronger. Brighter. And across the void, the Council fleet began to reposition, preparing for something they clearly feared. The first message from the Council didn't come as a request. It came as a command. Unidentified vessel, designated Odyssey, you are in violation of Galactic Directive 7. The voice was cold, measured, ancient, powered down all non-essential systems. Prepare for immediate inspection and containment. Captain Arya Solon stood on the bridge of the UES Odyssey, staring at the wall of warships surrounding them. Dozens, maybe more, sleek alien hulls, massive dreadnoughts, living ships that pulse like organisms. And at the center, the orbiters, enforcers of the Galactic Council, the ones no one argued with. Until now, Arya didn't respond immediately. Her eyes shifted toward Elias Varen. He stood behind her, calm, unbothered, like he'd seen this moment already. Captain, Cade whispered, they're locking targeting systems. Of course they were. They think we're a threat, Arya said quietly. Varen tilted his head slightly. We are. She shot him a sharp look. That's not helping. Another transmission cut through. This time, a face appeared. Tall, crystalline, glowing from within. Ambassador Krell of the Orbiters, a being older than human civilization itself. Human vessel. Krell said, voice like grinding stone, you carry technology that's forbidden. A pause. You will surrender immediately. Silence on the bridge. Every officer frozen. Waiting. Arya stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, she said, voice controlled. We don't even fully understand what we're dealing with yet. Krell's form darkened slightly. That is precisely why it must be contained. Varen moved closer. Contained, he repeated softly. Krell's gaze shifted, locked onto him. Identify yourself. Varen didn't hesitate. Commander Elias Varen, formerly of the Odyssey. A flicker of recognition. Then, something else. Alarm. That vessel was lost, Krell said. Incorrect, Varen replied. A beat. It evolved. The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop. Krell's voice sharpened. You will step away from command authority immediately. That individual is to be isolated. Arya didn't move. No. The word landed like a shockwave. Cade turned to her. Captain. She didn't look at him. They haven't attacked us, she said. They haven't harmed anyone. Krell's tone hardened. They have violated the natural order. Varen stepped forward. No, he said calmly. We proved it was wrong. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. You presume to challenge millions of years of stability? Krell demanded. Varen met his gaze. I challenge a system built on fear. That did it. Across space. Energy signatures spiked. Weapons primed. The fleet was ready. Captain, Cade said urgently, if they fire, we won't survive a single volley. Arya knew that. Every officer knew that. Except Varen. He didn't even look concerned. They won't fire, he said. Arya frowned. How can you be sure? Varen's answer came quietly. Because they're afraid. On the screen, Krell's form pulsed with shifting color. You misunderstand your position, the ambassador said. You're a Tier 1 species. The words carried weight. Hierarchy. Limits. Chains. You are not permitted to possess this level of technology. Varen smiled faintly. Permission is exactly the problem. A murmur rippled across the bridge. Even Arya felt it. That line. That truth. You were never meant to advance this fast, Krell continued. Not meant by whom? Varen asked. Silence. No answer. Varen took another step forward. The Council doesn't guide progress, he said. It controls it. Krell's voice dropped to something dangerous. We prevent extinction. Varen nodded slowly. And how many species have you kept from becoming something more? The question lingered, uncomfortable, unanswered. Behind Arya, Cade pulled up data streams, historical records, council archives. His face paled. Captain, he whispered. She glanced back. What? He swallowed. They've only elevated 4 species in 12,000 years. The number hit hard. 4 out of hundreds. Arya turned back to the screen. Krell didn't deny it. That is not your concern, the ambassador said. It is now, Arya replied. Silence again. Tension tightening like a wire about to snap. Then, a second voice entered the channel. Different, calmer, older. We should hear them. A new figure appeared beside Krell. Tall, elegant, eyes glowing with soft light. A Serani elder. Another ancient race. Ambassador Krell, the elder continued, we came prepared for conflict. A pause. But perhaps we should first seek understanding. Krell turned sharply. This is not a debate. No, the elder said quietly. It is a turning point. That changed everything. Arya felt it. The shift, not unity, but division within the council itself. Varen saw it too. This is what you're afraid of, he said softly. Krell didn't respond. You're not afraid of us, Varen continued. You're afraid others will follow. Across the fleet, signals flickered. Ships repositioned. Not attacking, watching, waiting, choosing. Captain, Cade said quietly, some of the ships, they're powering down weapons. Arya's eyes widened slightly. The Serani elder spoke again. If what you claim is true, it said to Varen, then this technology, it chooses who is worthy. Varen nodded. Yes, and you believe humanity passed? Another nod. We didn't just pass, he said. We were accepted. The elder studied him. Long. carefully. Then, perhaps, it said slowly, the test was not meant to be hidden. Krell snapped. It is forbidden for a reason. Varen's voice cut through. Calm, steady, undeniable. No. A pause. It's forbidden because you failed. The bridge went silent. Even the air felt frozen. Krell's form flared violently. That is a lie. Varen didn't flinch. Check your own archives. A dangerous suggestion, but one the Elder didn't ignore. Behind the scenes, Data moved, fast. Cade stared at his console. Oh my God, he whispered. Arya turned sharply. What is it? He looked up. There are sealed records. A pause. Orbiter history, 5,000 years ago. His voice dropped. They found the same kind of structure. Arya's stomach tightened, and Cade's eyes were wide. They tried to weaponize it. Silence. They failed. On screen, Krell said nothing, which said everything. The Sereni Elder closed its eyes briefly. When did we become afraid of growth? It murmured. That was the moment. The fracture. The council. No longer united. And Arya realized this wasn't just a standoff anymore. It was a choice between control and evolution, between fear and possibility. Varen stepped beside her. They're going to force a decision, he said quietly. Arya nodded. I know. She looked at the fleet, at the divided lines, at the future hanging in the balance. What happens next? She asked. Varen's answer came without hesitation. That depends on you. A beat, because once we act, his eyes glowed faintly. There's no going back. Outside, the Odyssey began to pulse. Stronger, brighter, and across the void, some ships powered weapons. Others powered down. The galaxy was splitting in two. No one fired first. And somehow, that made it worse. The silence between fleets stretched across the void like a held breath. On the bridge of the UES Odyssey, every system hummed at peak readiness. Shields active, weapons charged, engines primed. But no one moved, because everyone knew the first shot would decide everything. Captain, Cade's voice was tight, multiple council vessels are locking us again. Arya didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the main display. Two sides. On one side, ships aligned behind the Galactic Council Authority. Weapons hot, formation tight. On the other, a smaller cluster. Ships that had powered down. Watching, waiting. And in the center, the Odyssey, the unknown variable, the threat, or the future. They're going to fire, one officer whispered. No, Varen said calmly from behind them. Arya didn't turn. Explain. They're calculating, Varen replied. A beat. They want to see what we'll do first. Cade frowned. That's not how military doctrine works. Varen's lips curved slightly. It is when you're afraid of what your opponent can do. The words landed heavy. On screen, Ambassador Krell reappeared. Final directive, the orbiter said. Its voice was sharper now, more urgent. Power down immediately or be neutralized. Arya exhaled slowly. Her decision had arrived. She glanced back at her crew. Fear, confusion, hope. Then at Varen. Calm, certain. What exactly are you planning? She asked quietly. Varen stepped forward. A demonstration. Those same words again. But this time, they carried weight. Non-lethal, he added. Arya narrowed her eyes. You're sure? Yes. A pause. They'll survive? Not exactly comforting, but enough. Arya turned back to the screen. Ambassador Krell, she said firmly, we are not powering down. A beat, but we are not your enemy. Krell's form darkened. Then you are making a fatal mistake. Or correcting one, Arya replied. Silence. Then, fire. The word echoed like a death sentence, and the galaxy exploded into motion. Beams of energy tore across space. Missiles ignited. Gravity distortions warped the void. Dozens of council ships unleashed a synchronized attack. Enough firepower to erase a planet. Impact in 3 seconds. Cade shouted. Arya gripped the console. Varen now. Varen didn't move fast. He simply closed his eyes and placed his hand against the central interface. The Odyssey responded instantly, not like a machine, like a living thing. Light surged across its hull, and then it pulsed. Not an explosion, not a shield, a wave, invisible but undeniable. It expanded outward from the Odyssey like a ripple in reality itself. The incoming weapons stopped mid-flight, frozen, suspended in space. Every beam, every missile, every distortion, locked in place. Time itself seemed to hesitate. "What the hell?" Cade whispered. Then the wave hit the fleet, and everything changed. One by one, Council ships went dark. Lights flickered out. Engines died. Weapons powered off. Entire warships, drifting, helpless, across the battlefield. Panic erupted. "We've lost propulsion. Systems offline. Control is gone." Transmission after transmission flooded in. On the bridge, no one spoke. They just stared at the impossible. Only one group remained unaffected. Human ships. And the Odyssey. Arya slowly turned to Varen. "What did you do?" He opened his eyes. Nothing destructive. A pause. "I removed their ability to fight." On screen, Ambassador Krell reappeared. But this time, there was no dominance, only shock. "What have you done?" Krell demanded. Varen stepped forward, demonstrated. "A beat that you can't stop us." The words echoed across every channel, across every ship, across the entire Council network. Krell's voice shook. "This is an act of war." Varen shook his head slightly. "No." A pause. "This is the end one." Silence followed. Heavy, unavoidable. Then, another voice. The Serani Elder. Calm, measured. "You disabled an entire fleet without casualties." Varen nodded. "Yes." The Elder studied him. "And you could destroy us?" A long pause. Varen didn't smile. "Easily." That was the moment. The real one. Not the attack. Not the power. But the realization. They weren't fighting an enemy anymore. They were facing something beyond them. Something they couldn't control. And something that chose not to destroy them. Arya stepped forward. "This is why we didn't surrender," she said, her voice steady. "They're not here to conquer." She looked directly at Krell. "They're here to change the system." Krell didn't respond, because for the first time, there was no position left to stand on. The power balance was gone, completely, across the void. Ships drifted silently, alive, but powerless. A fleet built on control, reduced to observers. And at the center, the Odyssey glowed softly, not threatening, not aggressive, just present. Varen turned slightly toward Arya. "They'll have to talk now," he said. She nodded slowly. "Yes." Her eyes moved across the silent battlefield. "They will." But deep inside, she knew something else. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Because once power like this existed, it couldn't be unseen. It couldn't be undone. And it definitely couldn't be controlled. Silence ruled the battlefield. Not the tense silence before war. Not the fragile quiet of fear. But something else. The silence of realization. Across the void, the once dominant fleets of the Galactic Council drifted, alive, intact and powerless. No engines, no weapons, no control. For the first time in millennia, they weren't the ones in charge. At the center of it all, the UES Odyssey glowed softly, not as a threat, as a statement. On the bridge, no one spoke, because no one quite knew what came next. Arya Solon did, or at least, she knew what had to happen. "Open a channel," she said. Cade hesitated. "To all ships?" Arya nodded. "All of them." A breath. Then the channel opened. Every ship, every species, every surviving authority in the sector. Listening, Arya stepped forward. "This is Captain Arya Solon of the Odyssey." Her voice carried across the void. Steady, clear. "You came here expecting to contain a threat." A pause. "What you found instead was a choice." On dozens of screens, alien commanders watched. Silent. We could have destroyed your fleet, she continued. No one here doubts that now. Her eyes shifted briefly toward Varen, then back forward. But we didn't. A beat, because this isn't about war. She let that sink in. It's about what comes next. Across the fleet, reactions flickered. Confusion, suspicion, reluctant attention. Arya continued. For generations, the Council has controlled progress. Her voice sharpened slightly. Decided who advances and who waits. Cade watched the data feeds. No interruptions. No objections. Just listening. But now, Arya said, we've seen something different. She gestured slightly toward Varen. Something that doesn't choose based on power or age. A pause. But on who we are. That landed. Hard. The Sarani elder appeared again on the shared channel. You're speaking of the test, it said softly. Arya nodded. Yes. A moment of silence. Then, Ambassador Krell. Dimmer now. Less certain. You are proposing what exactly? Krell asked. Arya took a breath. A new path. The words echoed. We don't take control from the Council. She paused. We remove the need for it. A ripple moved through the fleet. Krell's tone sharpened slightly. That is not how order works. Varen stepped forward. No, he said calmly. It's how evolution works. The difference was clear. One enforced, one chosen. Arya continued. The technology we encountered. She chose her words carefully. It doesn't belong to humanity. That surprised even her crew. It doesn't belong to the Council either. A pause. It belongs to anyone who can prove they're ready. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. Hopeful. The Sarani elder spoke again. And who decide that readiness? Varen answered this time. The system itself. A beat. No bias. No politics. Another beat. No fear. That word hit hardest. Because everyone understood it. Krell didn't argue immediately. Because for the first time, the Council had no advantage left. Only a choice. Your proposal, Krell said slowly, would dismantle the authority structure that has maintained peace for millennia. Arya met his gaze. Or finally test whether that peace was real. Silence. Long. Then, unexpectedly, another voice joined. The Vaker commander. Previously hostile. Now, measured. If the system is real, it said, then any species could attempt it? Yes, Varen replied. And risk destruction? The Vaker pressed. Varen didn't soften it. Yes. A ripple of unease. But also curiosity. Then why offer it all? The Vaker demanded. Varen's answer was simple. Because denying growth is a slower form of extinction. That changed something. Not instantly, but undeniably. Across the fleet, perspective shifted. The Sarani elder closed its eyes briefly. For thousands of years, it said quietly, we believed we were protecting the galaxy. A pause. Perhaps we were protecting ourselves. Krell turned toward the elder, but didn't interrupt, because deep down, he knew the truth had already spread. Arya took one final step forward. We're not asking you to surrender. A pause. We're asking you to adapt. The word lingered. Powerful. Dangerous. Necessary. Minutes passed. No one spoke. Across hundreds of ships, leaders debated, analyzed, argued, and slowly, the future began to take shape. The Sarani elder spoke first. The Sarani will participate. A wave of shock. An ancient species choosing change. Then another, and the Vaker will observe. Not full support, but not rejection either. Then more. Ships, species, voices, not united, but no longer controlled. Finally, all eyes turned to Krell, the last pillar of absolute authority. The orbiter remained silent for a long time, its crystalline form dimmed, processing, accepting, or resisting. Then, we will not surrender control, Krell said. A pause. But another pause. We will not oppose this path. That was it. Not agreement, but not war. And in that moment, that was enough. Hours later, systems across the fleet were restored. Ships powered back on. Weapons remained offline. By choice, the battlefield dissolved, not into victory, but into something far more rare. Understanding. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Arya stood beside Varen, watching the fleets disperse. "You changed everything," she said quietly. Varen shook his head. "No." A small pause. "We gave everyone a choice." Arya smiled faintly. "That's a bigger change than you think." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Unknown, full of possibility. "Do you think they'll pass?" she asked. Varen looked out into the void. "Some will." A pause. "Some won't." Another pause. "But that's the point." Arya nodded slowly. Yes, that was the point. Not control, not perfection, but the chance to become something more. Together, days later, deep in uncharted space. Something ancient stirred. Another structure, another test. Waiting, and somewhere a signal was sent, not just to humanity, but to anyone willing to answer. The next chapter had already begun. Peace didn't last. It never does. 3 weeks after the Council's decision, everything changed again. Deep space, far beyond mapped territory, beyond trade routes, beyond Council sensors. Something woke up, not a ship, not a station. Something older. On a remote listening outpost, an automated probe suddenly activated. For the first time in over 2 million years, a signal began broadcasting. Not random, not noise, a pattern, a message. On Earth, inside the new Human Expansion Command, alarms went off instantly. "Admiral," an officer said urgently, "we're detecting a deep space transmission." Admiral Arya Solin turned sharply. "Source." The officer hesitated. "That's the problem." A pause. "It's not coming from one place." The main display lit up. Dots appeared across the galaxy. Then more. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Arya's eyes widened. "No." The officer nodded slowly. "Yes, they're everywhere." Moments later, a secure channel opened. Commander Elias Varen appeared. But this time, he didn't look calm. He looked concerned. "That signal," he said immediately. "You're receiving it too." Arya nodded. "What is it?" Varen didn't answer right away, because he already knew, and he didn't like it. "It's not a broadcast," he said finally. A pause. "It's a response." Silence. "A response to what?" Arya asked. Varen looked directly at her. "To us." That hit harder than anything before. "The station we activated," Varen continued. "It wasn't isolated." Arya felt it immediately. That creeping realization. "How many are there?" she asked. Varen's answer came quietly. "We don't know." A beat, but now they know we exist. The transmission was decoded. Not language, not symbols. Something deeper. A structure. A pattern designed to be understood. And when it finally translated, the room went silent. The message was simple. Phase 2 initiated. Arya stepped back slowly. "There's more." Varen nodded. "Yes." A pause. "What we experience." Another pause. Was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, every species that had shown interest in the tests received the same signal. Some celebrated, some panicked, some prepared for war. Because one thing became clear. The first test judged individuals. The next one would judge civilizations. Varen leaned closer to the screen. "There's something else." Arya's voice dropped. "What?" Varen hesitated, which he had never done before. "That signal." A pause. "It didn't come from the stations." Silence. "Then where?" Arya asked. Varen's answer changed everything. Something else sent it. A beat. Something precursors were afraid of. Arya looked out at the stars, no longer filled with hope, but with questions. What could scare something that advanced? Varen didn't answer immediately, because the truth was worse than anything they imagined. "It's not what scares them," he said quietly. A pause. "It's what they were preparing for."